Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, and today we have a Tier 8 ranked battle from the North American server for you, featuring Gidzeki in the Akizuki. This is the Tier 8 Japanese destroyer with the identity crisis. It doesn't realise it's Japanese, it thinks it's American. What do you mean by that, Jingles? Well, for those of you who are lucky enough to have never faced an Akizuki in battle, it's a distinctly un-Japanese destroyer. For a start, it only has one torpedo launcher, and it has 4 turrets, each with 2 100mm guns. And those turrets turn very, very quickly, and they have a monstrous rate of fire. Like the higher tier American destroyers, this ship is entirely capable of pulling off very tight maneuvers and still keeping its guns trained on the target. The rate of fire of these 100mm guns is monstrous, 20 rounds per minute, and don't forget it has 8 of them. So that's an optimal 160 rounds per minute coming out of the 100mm gun barrels on this Japanese destroyer. The fact that the Akizuki only has the one torpedo launcher with 4 torpedo tubes isn't really too much of a drawback, because the Akizuki is also rather unique in its consumable choices. It can use a torpedo reload booster to get an almost instant reload on its torpedoes, but unlike other Japanese destroyers that have this consumable, it doesn't have to choose between the torpedo reload booster and the smokescreen. The Akizuki can have both. So far, so overpowered. But the Akizuki does also come with a couple of drawbacks. First of all, it's pretty slow. It only has a top speed of 33 knots. There's also a characteristic relating to these 100mm guns that makes things a little interesting, unless you're running a 10-point captain with the inertia fuse high explosive shell skill. And I can tell you right now that Gidzeki is running the Akizuki with a 10-point captain and the IFHE skill, and I can tell you that because he's actually damaging that Z-23 destroyer with his high explosive 100mm shells. What are you talking about, Jingles? Of course he's damaging him. He's firing high explosive and it's just a destroyer. Well, yeah, but here's how you work out the armor penetration values for a Japanese destroyer. You take the caliber of the gun, 100, and you divide it by 6, and that gets you 16.6 rounded up to 17, which means that the Akizuki, with its 100mm high explosive shells and no other factors, can penetrate 16mm of armor. And Tier 8 destroyers all have 19mm of armor plating. So if Gidzeki did not have the IFHE skill, he would have to fire armor piercing against other Tier 8 destroyers. Not Tier 7 destroyers, not Tier 6 destroyers. They have 16mm of armor plating, and as we've already worked out, you can penetrate 16mm of armor plating with the Akizuki's 100mm guns firing high explosive shells. But against other Tier 8 destroyers, unless you have that IFHE skill, you have to switch to armor piercing. You cannot just spam high explosive at everything and expect to do damage in the Akizuki the way that you can and often do in most other destroyers. Now, sure, in other destroyers you absolutely definitely should be switching to armor piercing under specific circumstances, like you've got the nice flat broadside of an enemy cruiser to shoot at ranges of 5 kilometers or less, for example. You may score some citadels, you'll almost certainly do more damage. But it's not a case of it would be nice to switch to armor piercing in the Akizuki. You absolutely have to, because your high explosive is going to do nothing. It's just going to shatter off the armoured side of the target. Just as an extreme example, well, it's not that extreme an example actually. I mean, again, you wouldn't believe it by seeing what he's doing to that Alabama over there, but if he was not running this inertia fuse high explosive shell skill, he wouldn't be able to do any damage to a Tier 8 battleship with his high explosive shells. Even the superstructure of a Tier 8 battleship has 19mm of armour. So his high explosive shells would even be shattering on the superstructure of a Tier 8 or higher battleship. Of course, he does have the IFHE skill, and that means he has 21mm of penetration with his high explosive shells. So he doesn't really have to worry too much about switching around ammunition types. New Akizuki captains who don't have access to that skill just yet, however, well, let me just put it this way. You can bow tank an Akizuki in a Benson. Yes, really. Anyway, things are about to get very, very interesting. He spotted the Kagero, and that's incredibly bad news for the Kagero, of course. because he's just about to get melted. He's also spotted the Kagero's torpedoes, and that's great news for the Tirpitz and the Kuchizov, who I think possibly one torpedo hit, but they were given sufficient notice that they were able to avoid getting deleted by that Kagero's torpedo salvo. There is another battleship on the team, however, the North Carolina. Look at that. How is that even possible? How much notice do you need that you're about to get torpedoed? Well, the North Carolina apparently needed more notice than that, and he's going to be spending most of the rest of the game complaining. Yes, really. Complaining that Gidzeki allowed the Kagero to flank attack him with torpedoes. Apparently, the North Carolina required a written warning that there were torpedoes on the way before he was going to do anything about it. Yes, no, I'm not making this up. Anyway, the Kagero's managed to get away, but only momentarily. Now, the Kagero is also not a particularly fast destroyer. It's got a top speed of 35 knots, assuming you're not running a speed flag with the engine boost. But it's still faster than the Akizuki, so Gidzeki switches up his engine boost in order to chase this guy down. And incidentally, he should be able to cap A. Once he's... there he is. Yep. Oh dear, he's come around. Is he going to be launching torpedoes? He's probably waiting for his torpedoes to reload. And... no, we're good. If there were any torpedoes in the water, he would have seen them by now. So, his second kill. He's nailed both of the enemy destroyers, the Z-23 and the Kagero. And this is a huge advantage for him and the other destroyer on his team, of course, the Benson, because they no longer have to worry about getting outspotted, particularly by that Kagero. And Gidzeki is now in the perfect position to steal a cap on A, which is great news for the team, because despite being up on kills, they're behind on points. What's going on over in B? Yeah, it does look like the enemy team are starting to cap B. So this is good. I mean, the enemy team already have a points advantage. They now no longer have points coming in from A while it's being contested, and pretty soon Gidzeki is going to flip A and the points are going to start coming in for his team. So the rate of points gain is going to be neutral, but the enemy team do still have that 80-point advantage, so we're going to need to start sinking some ships. He gets some torpedoes away, flips on his torpedo reload booster, and within a couple of seconds he's ready to launch a second salvo from his single midships torpedo launcher. The bad news, however, is that Edinburgh. He has realised that something is going on over in the A cap point, and he's coming over to investigate. Now, the Edinburgh could have radar. He probably doesn't, though, because, well, if he did, he would probably have used it by now when Gidzeki would already be getting shot at. Also, oh, hold on a second. Oh boy, look at that Amagi. Is he going to get him with another one? Yep, he's got him. Okay. The team are in the lead at last. Good stuff. So why would it be unusual for an Edinburgh to be carrying the radar consumable? Radar's a fantastic consumable. Why would you not use it if you could? Well, for the Edinburgh to have the radar, he has to give up his smoke screen. So it's more usual for an Edinburgh to be running hydroacoustic search and smoke screen. And we're going to, well, yeah. From that range, he can cover the entire cap circle. He knows Gidzeki's in here. If he had the radar, he would have used it. So it's probably safe to assume that the Edinburgh is running smoke and hydroacoustic search, which is fairly typical of Edinburgh captains. Unfortunately, he's not getting any further away from that Edinburgh, and even using his engine boost consumable, the Edinburgh is still maintaining the distance on him, so he really needs his team to start shooting that guy up, because he's about to start recapping A, and the team don't have that much of a points lead. They really need to hold on to it, so Gidzeki's going to have to do something here. First, though, it would make sense to try to get the rest of his team to do something about it, so he's been pinging the map saying, "Oi, you guys, shoot this Edinburgh," but they all appear to have better things to do, so Gidzeki is going to have to do it himself. Now, he's lucky here in that the Edinburgh had his guns pointed the other way and was shooting at the rest, and in fact still is shooting at the rest of his team, but there goes the Edinburgh's smokescreen. Gidzeki's popped his own smokescreen, and as if any further confirmation were needed that the Edinburgh does not have radar, there's the smokescreen. He still knows roughly where the Edinburgh is, however. Now, while the Edinburgh does not have radar, because he's used the smoke generator, He definitely has hydroacoustic search. He has sonar. Gidzeki's popped some torpedoes into the smokescreen. His torpedo reload booster is ready to go, but he's not using it. He could fire a second salvo of torpedoes into the smokescreen. And there is some shots coming, or there are some shots coming, excuse my English, from some other ships on the team. But nothing appears to be too effective. The Edinburgh's in that smokescreen somewhere. Well, we assume he is. He could be turning around and bugging out, but probably not. And it's unlikely that those torpedoes are going to hit him because, well, if he has any sense whatsoever, he's got the bows of his ship pointing towards where the enemy destroyer was spotted, and he's running his hydroacoustic search. So he will see the torpedoes coming. And there go the Edinburgh's torpedoes. And if he's running his hydroacoustic search, there it is. He is going to see Gidzeki before Gidzeki sees him. There are the shots from the smoke. Unfortunately for the Edinburgh, he can't stay hidden in smoke while firing his guns from that kind of range. And it's now that he has a definite target to shoot at that Gidzeki has used his torpedo reload booster and sent a second salvo of 4 torpedoes towards that British light cruiser, while turning directly away from him to minimise his profile. Although the Edinburgh is still scoring hits, but it wasn't enough. Torpedo struck home and finished him off. That's Gidzeki's 4th kill. And, oh, he's also got the high caliber award. Wow, that's not bad. 133,197 damage. Only 2 enemy ships left, but they're both tier 8 battleships. And despite Gidzeki's Herculean efforts here, the rest of his team combined have only managed to sink 1 ship. The difference in scores between the 2 teams is not that great. The Edinburgh did manage to recapture A, so, well, now would be a good time to motor on in there and take it back off the enemy team. Get some points coming in. Now, a word about tier 8 battleships. Tier 8 battleships, even if you have the inertia fuse high explosive skill on the captain of your Akizuki, the only place you can damage a tier 8 battleship with your high explosive shells is in the superstructure, because it has 19mm of armour on the superstructure of every tier 8 battleship. Everywhere else, your high explosive shells are just going to shatter. So, Bismarck up ahead, Alabama over there. The Bismarck's on low health, and he's almost in shooting range. In fact, he is now in shooting range. But he's not going to be quite so stupid as to start shooting at a Bismarck, because Bismarck captains do like to spec into secondary gun batteries, and a Bismarck can have its secondary gun batteries firing with pretty potent accuracy at ranges up to 11 kilometers. So he's already in range of that Bismarck's secondaries. Also, he's trying to cap, so he doesn't want to give his position away here. Instead, he fires off some torpedoes. Now what you're about to see here is some very nice play from both teams. Gidzeki is about to cap. That Bismarck knows that there's a destroyer over here. He can see that A is being captured. A has now been capped. Gidzeki has popped his smoke. The Bismarck can see the smoke screen. Gidzeki's torpedoes are on the way, but now that Gidzeki is smoked up, nobody's spotting that Bismarck. So the Bismarck, aware that he's probably coming under torpedo attack, launches his catapult plane. And that's going to spot the torpedoes for him, so well played from the Bismarck. Gidzeki, meanwhile, is asking that Tirpitz to launch his own catapult fighter. And that is going to spot the Bismarck for him, which allows Gidzeki to start opening up. And you'll note where he's aiming. He's aiming well above the waterline. He has to fire shots into the Bismarck superstructure to do any kind of damage whatsoever to that ship. Tier 8 battleships have so much armour that even with IFHE, unless you hit the superstructure, your shells are just going to shatter and do no damage. Even if you hit the deck of a tier 8 battleship, high explosive is going to have no effect. And the Bismarck, obviously fully aware, because he saw the first salvo of torpedoes, has turned nose in towards the smoke screen. But what he's probably not counting on is the fact that there's an Akizuki over here with a torpedo reload booster, and there's a second salvo of torpedoes incoming. But actually, I think the Bismarck is going to avoid those torpedoes as well. But he's coming under fire from 3 different directions. The Benson at the back there is shooting at him. Gidzeki is shooting at him, the Tirpitz is shooting at him. There's the Confederate award. And it's just a question of who's going to get the kill. And it's Gidzeki, and there is Kraken Unleashed. I am, of course, contractually obliged to show that clip every time somebody scores 5 kills in a World of Warships game. Just the Alabama left. Although they've managed to lose another ship in the meantime. Oh, great. Fantastic. Okay, so the Tirpitz is dead. The Kutyazov is dead. It's just 2 destroyers against an Alabama. But, well, you know, let's be completely honest here. I wouldn't want to be in the Alabama. Yeah. Does the Alabama have radar? Oh, I should know. I have an Alabama. But I can't actually remember. I know the Missouri gets radar at tier 9, but, well, you know, that's not a Missouri. I'm actually going to have to go to the Wikipedia page and check. No. Okay. That's great news. The Alabama does not have radar. That's really bad news for him. Here's something else you need to know about the Akizuki's 100mm guns. Fantastic muzzle velocity, at least initial muzzle velocity, 1000 meters per second. That's as good as the tier 6 premium Italian cruiser, the Duca d'Aosta. And like the Duca d'Aosta, that shell velocity falls off rapidly at long range. So you really do get the best of both worlds here with the Akizuki. You get lightning fast shells at short range, which make it very comfortable to blast the crap out of enemy destroyers. But at long range, because the shells are so light, at ranges in excess of 10 kilometers or so, it tends to perform more like the Atlanta, where the shells just kind of hang in the air forever. But that allows you at long range to shoot over islands, which is exactly what Gidzeki was doing at that very, very unfortunate Alabama just there. Now would be a great time for the Benson on the team, by the way, the other surviving destroyer, to head over. In fact, he already has. So, yeah, sorry, Jingles, weren't paying attention. The Benson has done the right thing. He's capped Bravo. So now the Alabama is completely screwed. And to be completely fair here, Gidzeki's team would have to screw up in biblical proportions in order to lose this match from this point. From here on in, they don't even need to sink and kill the Alabama. They already have the points advantage. They've got points coming in from controlling 2 of the capture points. They have less than 3 minutes to just sit here and do nothing, and they're still going to win, even if the Alabama recaptures A. But, well, that wouldn't be fun, would it? So, you know, you really do have to feel sorry for the Alabama in this kind of situation. He's got a Benson and an Akizuki stalking him, and he knows he's detected, obviously. But he's going to do what he can. He's going to at least attempt to capture A. And of course, the best thing to do here, and I think, if somebody hasn't already said it in chat, somebody's about to, the best thing to do is to wait for that Alabama to get around about half of the capture bar and then reset it. Because that's just cruel. But watch what Gidzeki does here. Now the Benson's already steamed in and launched his torpedoes. Instead of firing his torpedoes straight at the Alabama, he stops and thinks for a second. He thinks, well, hang on a second. If that guy spots the Benson's torpedoes, which way is he going to turn? And so he fires his torpedoes in a direction that are going to miss the Alabama at this point. The Alabama is being spotted by the Benson. The Benson isn't shooting at him, so Gidzeki is free to open up from within smoke with the high explosive shells, and yep, sure enough, Alabama spotted the torpedoes launched by the Benson. He's got his spotter plane up. He's turning to avoid the Benson's torpedoes, and that's putting him right in the path of the torpedoes that Gidzeki launched, anticipating exactly what the Alabama was going to do. He's seen them, it's just a little too late. There's just the one torpedo hit, but it has caused flooding. He'd already set the Alabama on fire. The Alabama very wisely did not use his damage control to extinguish that one fire. He uses it now, the fire's out, the flooding is contained. But the only way the Alabama is going to win this match with the amount of time remaining is to sink both destroyers, and, well, his guns just don't reload fast enough for him to do that, so Gidzeki's team have a fairly comfortable win here. Although he could possibly be a little cheeky, and I'm not entirely sure why he's checking the map at this stage. Perhaps somebody can let me know in the comments. but with the timer about to expire and a comfortable points lead, Gidzeki figures, screw it, I may as well farm a little more damage. Shots out, yep, a little more damage it is. Alabama sees him, tries to clench a kill right at the last second, but nope, sorry, kill denied. Gidzeki wins. And one hell of a convincing win it was too. Only 7 ships on the enemy team in a ranked battle, and Gidzeki sank 5 of them. 183,000 damage, Kraken Unleashed, Confederate, First Blood, and High Caliber. That's Gidzeki in a Tier 8 ranked battle on the North American server in the Akizuki, the Tier 8 Japanese destroyer that has the identity crisis and thinks it's American. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Gidzeki, thank you very much for sending that one in. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.